I'm Professor Sharon Advisors here. So I just wanted to have a chat to you about your statement, your written statement that you provided to us. So obviously we've been investigating the statement, and so I just wanted to give you an opportunity to come in and have a talk basically about it, because it's one thing for us to receive it in writing, it's another thing for us to talk, and for you to be able to just tell me a little bit more, and and see if we can support you in any way. So I think with your statement, actually I might just grab it if that's okay. Because there was a little bit in there. I did have it printed. I thought I did. Alright.
It's so much people sometimes you lose track of it.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, but just so I can jog your memory, obviously. So you wrote about an incident in January 2021, so that you were testing instruments at the Hypox machine when Anna pulled your pants, stating that they looked funny. And then after going to the unloading area, she came back and touched your bottom when you were still at the Hypox table. Yeah, okay. And so were you guys, what was, I guess, the relationship between you and Anna before? So before all of this sort of started, because I think you started, was it around December?
In about the 11th of January.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right. So that was pretty close to when you started, right? Okay, so started in the 11th of January.
So that means I didn't know her at all.
Yeah, you didn't know her at all.
And I was just familiarizing myself with everyone's name because, you feel embarrassed when you go into a new environment and then
Yeah.
everyone's so nice and like, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Yeah, sure. And so you didn't really have, like, I guess, a working relationship with her yet or anything like that. Okay, sure.
She did state that when she first pulled the pants, she said, oh, your pants look funny. And then she said, another staff member's pants is also like that. It must be because it's the loose or something. And then
okay.
Maybe she has children or something and she's just kind of like being like parental and kind of like out of natural instinct pulling my pants. But when she did it the second time, there was no reason, like she could have just pointed and said, oh, pants looks funny. Then that would have been okay. But when she did it the second time, I thought, I have to like monitor her behavior because no one else does it. And everyone only like that's an inappropriate place. Like if you touch her on the shoulder, that's okay. But and then we saw that it was uncomfortable, she tried it again. But she had a talk with me afterwards. And she said, I know you don't like being touched. And I said, yes, I don't think nobody likes being touched in that area. And she said, some people do and some people don't. I said, no, and don't touch anyone else's that area. And she said, okay then. And then she just kept quiet. And I thought it was the end of it, so I didn't really report it because to me it's really uncomfortable because it's not only reporting it that's because it's a sensitive issue, but also because when other staff members had told they get uncomfortable around the person who said that. And it actually happened on when we were in the unloading area and I yelled out because it was really loud. First I said softly and then she couldn't hear me, so I said, don't touch me. And she said, what was it? I said, don't touch me, and then everyone heard.
Okay.
And there was quite a lot of people who had like this really like, I don't know how to explain it, like not angry and not sad, but kind of like, oh no, I have to be careful around this person.
Yeah.
And then about a few days, no one went, like only a very few amount of staff members were only sitting next to me in the tea room. And then when I told out the supervisor, the latest one is when she was inside the tea room and she she saw the whole thing happening. And like personally, if I do anything where it's just like she'll hand away and she'll say, she can over exaggerate and say, slap my hand really hard, or when I was just trying to adjust her uniform, when the case would have been is that she would have tried to touch me and then I would have gotten into trouble. So I just didn't do anything at all to like
push her off.
Yeah.
And so with so when you said, because you said in your statement here that you said it quite loud, and you do say the people that look shocked when a few other staff members. So would have heard you? Would some of the staff members have heard you say like, "Don't
Yes.
touch me"? Yeah. And was one of them?
She was.
Yeah. And did they come up to you afterwards and say, like, ask if you were okay or anything like that? No. Just gave you a bit of a funny look.
Yes, kind of
Yeah.
like more like the look as if like they were going to be accused of the same. I don't know. I can't really tell what's on their mind, but they didn't have the normal friendly like walking look.
Sure.
They changed to like an uncomfortable something look, and because I know the areas over here, and this is quite a big area where the packing area is, so everyone would have heard it. And I say quite loud because everyone says that I have a quiet voice, and so when I did speak up, because there's so much of noise, and then so they all heard it, and basically no one
Said
said anything.
Okay. And so, do you think they would have seen it as well, or do you think they probably just heard you? Like, was it quite subtle the way she did it, or?
It was because when I was at the high potts machine, everybody was like heads down, working with the instruments or doing something else. But they don't really pay attention to other people unless they're having a direct conversation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But what I found really weird was that when I spoke to Lisa about it, she also found it strange was that when Alex said to me, "Oh, Prana, you need to help me in unloading because you're the first chick, and anyone in unloading has to help with unload. Anyone in first chick has to help unloading." I thought that was a bit strange, but I said, "Oh, okay, if she needs help, I'll go and help her." And so I kept on questioning her, and after the first questioning, after she touched me 4 times, I was trying to like make it seem as if, oh, I need to do my work, but I didn't want to say I was uncomfortable with her being around me. And then when I said that she always has to ask for help and not just assume that someone in the unpacking area has to help the unloading person because no one else does it, but only if you ask the supervisor, then only the supervisor can say yes or no.
Okay.
And I think she asked me to do that because she wanted me in a secluded area where there's not much people walking past.
Okay.
And she was going to, because one of the things she actually has done is that she went into the dryer to pick up something, but there's quite a bit of space between us, and she reversed and she backed into me, like quite forcefully, not just like, oops, I just bumped into you, but like quite forcefully, and she was like smirking, so I thought that's a little bit.
So do you think that, because it sort of sounds like it's less of, even though it's inappropriate where you're being touched, obviously, it sounds more, less of like a sexual sort of nature and more of like a, almost like she's trying to make you uncomfortable. Does that make sense? Like, like the smirking and things like that, it's more that she's doing it on purpose. How do you feel?
Well, I think it's sort of both.
Okay.
Because you never know what goes on in the mind of other people, like whether they, unless like they do actual crime or something and then they get convicted of it, and then you would notice that that's their mindset. But I think it's a bit of both because if someone went to touch you on your shoulder, you would say, oh, they're just being friendly and they just like lightly touched your shoulder, but purposely touch on a private area.
Yeah.
It's really uncomfortable, and I think it would be like sort of both because she keeps on doing it because she knows it makes me uncomfortable, but at the same time, she could also think that way as well too.
Yeah.
And it's made me really uncomfortable rather, and sometimes I would go into the change room and I would see her like today, and I would be surprised, so I would hold my lunch bag in front of me because I have a lot of food in my lunch bag. So I use it as a barrier, and it's like, it's kind of programmed me to
Be a bit more weary.
yeah, and because she's so brazen about it and so covert about it, that it just makes me like on edge sometimes because it's not something no one else in the department has, they don't do that unless, even if they have young children too, like they don't do it, so I don't know why she's doing that to me, so.
Okay. So you haven't witnessed her doing it to anybody else? No. Okay.
So,
And in terms of a department, I guess you come in, you're new. Have you seen other people be a bit more physical with each other in terms of if that's the culture within the department? Do people hug or give each other some high fives, or is there a bit of that going on, or at all, or not really?
with some groups there is, like, I noticed that with the auto takes there is because been working together for a long time and they treat each other like family and like brothers because they're mainly men that are orthotics. And the staff members who have known each other, they do like, hug or something. I've never seen them once like smack each other in the private part and
Yeah,
touch.
sure.
But it's always like, gentle hug
Yeah,
and very
and it's quite
respectful.
consensual, like with both people. Yeah, okay, cool.
Like they hold up their hand and it's the
Yeah.
other person who reciprocates rather than just grabbing the person and going, I want to hug you kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And even the other staff members too, they would approach me respectfully and they would just like gently place a hand on my shoulder, but they
Yeah.
would give me an opportunity to move if I felt uncomfortable.
Yes, of course, yeah.
As opposed to
Yeah, yeah. Okay, sure. And have you ever had anything like that happen to you before, anything at all, or something where you may feel maybe, I'm not saying that you are, but maybe feel a little bit more sensitive to it than most people, or?
and it's not like, she shouldn't be doing it in the first place, and especially when I said to her as well too, as I did with Anna, I said to her, please don't touch me anymore because you're touching me in a place which is private. Please don't touch me anymore because it seems that all you're doing is in that area. And she said, okay, and then the next few times she did it again. So, which I don't understand because if you tell someone, don't do this, and then they continue to do it, it's like they don't respect you, so, of course, yeah. And it could be because, like, not only just to antagonize or make that person uncomfortable, but it's more than that because if it was to make a person uncomfortable, they would do it in front of other people. Whereas if it was something like sexual or something, they would do it in hidden because they don't want anyone to see what is happening. Because if someone bullies someone, then it's kind of like in front of few people as opposed to no people at all.
Sure.
And although I'm not hypersensitive to it, I just find it really uncomfortable because everyone would,
100%.
and especially since there's no like friendship or a few years between us to say, oh yes,
Yeah, exactly. There's not an established sort of relationship where you can tell she's just mucking around or she doesn't mean to be doing. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Did she ever ask you? So you had the conversation. You said flat out, "Don't touch me. It makes me feel uncomfortable." And then there was still accounts of it after that.
Yes.
Yeah. And did when you told her basically as you told me, like, that makes me uncomfortable. There was no giggling or, any way that she could misinterpret that?
No, I said it because I was, when you had enough and I wasn't, exactly angry, but I was kind of like, no, don't push me.
Make it clear. Yeah.
And I said to her, first I said to her quietly because I didn't want everyone to hear because that situation which I told you about has occurred.
Yeah.
So I said to her again, don't touch me, and she did it again.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry. The joys of one meeting room. Sorry, continue.
Nice and cozy.
Yeah, it is. We get very close. Sorry, continue with what you were saying.
So I was kind of annoyed, but I gave her like I was joking there and she said, don't touch me. And she said, she just looked either embarrassed or uncomfortable. Because why would she feel embarrassed or uncomfortable by me telling her not to touch me? Because then that means, I don't know, it's like, why would she be startled if I told her not to touch me? And because she would have known that touching somebody in that area would be uncomfortable. And she did it anyway, and I said to her, don't touch me, and she just like had this look on her face like she was insulted or something, or and
that's fair enough. Yeah. And so, after that, in terms of, so you've never had any arguments or anything about work or anything that could have sparked this, so it's just really out of nowhere that she just started sort of touching you. Yeah. Okay.
Because out of all of the people, Anna was the person who didn't get to know me like the other stuff. It was like, oh, hi, my name is, and they'd say, oh, they ask me, which country you're from, and I would tell them, and then they would say, oh, I'm from this country. But Anna would stay silent, and she would just, she didn't want to, she didn't get to know me. She just didn't ask me any questions. But all of a sudden, then this occurred, and so it kind of because when I spoke to my doctor about it, she said these type of people, they continues to do it even if you tell them not to, and you have to speak to your manager about it. And they said, oh, my manager is temporarily here and she hasn't met me yet, so I'm more comfortable speaking to my supervisor. And so I spoke to her, and because I was trying to work up the courage to speak to her a long time ago when this was happening, but then any other stuff.
It's hard when you had that previously. I mean, you followed the right thing though, you know, we always encourage people to try and solve things between them if you can. And I mean, had you have said that to her and she would have never done it again, then you kind of go, okay, maybe she didn't mean to. But the fact that it's continued, you need to escalate that, and Lisa's the perfect, you know, Lisa or Jackie, it depends on who you have a relationship with, I guess. And then they can bring it to our attention so we can look into it, because you're right, it is inappropriate. And you know, I know I've asked you a lot of questions, and it's not to say whether you're wrong or right. It's more just to understand the perspective of how it started and why it started, and what everybody's side of the story is, because obviously I'm completely impartial. But our ultimate goal here is to make it stop.
Yes, please. I just don't want anyone to do that to me.
Exactly, and that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to make it stop, and so that you can feel comfortable in the workplace, and you can feel safe in the workplace, and so that you guys can work together. If there's been some sort of miscommunication, perhaps, or if there is, you know, I guess intent behind it, you know, it's to stop that behaviour. And if the behaviour continues, then we will deal with it again. Okay, so we're hoping not, obviously. And generally speaking, when people are, I guess when their expectations are reset and when they're told that's the wrong thing to do, and that it's not appropriate, they generally will stop. You know, in some instances they don't, and then obviously we need to investigate that again. So it's just more about you communicating with us going forward. Obviously, going forward, I know that we have put you sort of on separate rosters, and going forward, after the investigation concludes, we won't be able to do that going forward, but obviously it's with the expectation that things will be resolved and there won't be any issues, but it's not to make you feel uncomfortable. So if you do still feel uncomfortable, or if there's anything further, just come and let us know, either us in HR or Lisa again, okay? Yeah. Do you have any questions at all?
If, for example, if she doesn't listen, because first of all, if I said don't touch me and she did do that again, if she doesn't listen to you in HR and she doesn't listen to Jackie, then that means that it will be taken higher up. And I know that I won't know the consequences of what happens now. And I'll be happy with knowing that it won't happen again, but if it does happen again, and I'm assuming that Jackie would have spoken to Anna and told her to do that, and if she does it again, that means I just tell Jackie or Lisa, and then they can...
So you just provide specific details like you did last time, with any new instances. So I would expect after this, you know, investigation concludes that there is absolutely no physical touch between you two.
No inappropriate touch.
And probably more so, I mean, no inappropriate touching, but probably no physical touch at all. Because I mean, and I mean, that's, you know, I guess we'll have to see how that goes, because if it is a friend, it sounds to me that you know the difference between a friendly touch versus something inappropriate. You know, if I was to go to you, it was nice to meet you, you're not going to think that was inappropriate, you know, because that out of endearment, we've had a discussion, versus, you know, me being completely inappropriate. And so, but I would assume, you know, if I was told to not touch somebody, I would go nowhere near them in terms of, like, I wouldn't even want to shake your hand, because I wouldn't want there to be any miscommunication, you know. So that's what I would expect going forward, is that you guys are work colleagues, you have good chats about work and about, you know, things outside of work if you want to, that's fine, but ultimately your colleagues are work colleagues, so you're there to work, to do your job, and just to be civil with one another while you're at work. And that's what my expectation would be. And if there's anything further that makes you inappropriate, that doesn't have to just be physical touch. If that's something verbal as well, because verbal inappropriateness, you know, it can be just as uncomfortable. So, you know, whether she's saying something to you that's inappropriate or anything like that, that needs to be addressed as well.
Also, after when she did speak to me in the change room, and she said, oh, I know you don't like being touched. And then about a few days later, she said to me in the change room when I was going to go home and she was arriving, she said to me, oh, we should go to Drink Love and we should have lunch or something, it'll be on me. And I thought, oh, she's feeling guilty about what she was going to do, so I thought that that would end there. But I didn't include it in the report to give to Jackie because I had forgotten about that. But she did say, oh, we should go to lunch at Drink Love. And I just said, oh, yes, it is. And I said, okay, I'm going to go now. And I just walked out because I didn't want to, I don't want to, like, not upset her, but I didn't want to kind of like rock the boat by saying, oh no, I really don't want to hang around you because of what you did. And I just said yes, so that I could just leave as soon as possible so nothing else could occur.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. And maybe she was genuinely trying to make amends as well, and you don't have to hang out with her outside of work. You don't have to feel uncomfortable about saying no thank you, but thanks, I appreciate you asking, but no thank you, because I guess now the hardest part is probably going to be repairing that relationship going forward and being able to have that communication between the two of you working together, but slowly I think over time that could be repaired.
And just a little bit afraid about what other staff members might think, because I think that when I did say in loud voice to Anna, don't touch me, the other people did hear it, but then they started acting uncomfortable around me, so I don't want to feel as if I made other people feel uncomfortable, because it's one thing to not want to be touched inappropriately, but then if other staff members know, then they feel uncomfortable and they treat you differently, and I don't want that to happen, because I just want to, this is my work, I come here to do my job and to the best of my ability, but I don't want to be be in an uncomfortable environment. I just want to, establish a good working relationship so we can communicate well and do our job as well too.
And the reaction from other staff members may have also been because your voice was raised, and they might have just been like, oh, like that's different because they don't hear you in that manner. So, I would see how that goes with a bit of time, because if something like that does happen at work, sometimes it can be in people's minds, oh, like, she raised her voice, something must be happening, and they might feel a bit uncomfortable about that, but I don't think it'll be anything long-lasting. It may just take a little bit of time, but if you're feeling that way, then you can chat with Lisa about that, it's ongoing, and see how it goes. But how's your relationship with your other workers? Is it good? Are you enjoying it?
Because I'm quite close, and because I basically, because of what happened to me, I thought I'll just not keep to myself, but I'll just keep it professionally work only and just only talk about work. So other staff members have been really supportive, but they have been like instances where we would just talk and things like that. But with Anna, it was just there wasn't any chitter chatter between us, and she didn't ask, oh, where are you from, or anything like that. It's just the two people concerned, they were very quiet and they didn't really interact with me. They just all of a sudden did this behavior, and that's how it can be.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you experienced that before and that nothing was sorted with that, because that's not really fair. So hopefully we can, try to get to the bottom of it here and make you feel a bit more comfortable in the work environment going forward. Yeah, okay. If you've got any questions in the meantime, you're more than welcome to come in. I only work on Mondays and Thursdays, but there's other HR representatives, so if you need to speak to somebody I'm not around, you can speak to them. Otherwise, obviously, you can have a chat with her. Have you got any other questions at all?
For example, out of hours, because the supervisors only work until a certain time.
Yeah.
If she were to, I know at the moment she's not working on the same shift as me, but when it gets resolved down the track and she does this, would I then go to another staff member and just say, can I call the coordinator upstairs, but not saying anything because it was confidential, and then speak to the coordinator and then see what they do, and then they can report on what happened?
Yeah. So, who would you, if you needed to go home sick from work on a shift, would you speak to the coordinator? Would that be your point of contact?
Yes, but sometimes, if I'm on the midnight shift, the supervisors only see to a certain point.
Yes.
And then when their shift finishes, then there's a bit of a gap where the level 4s are in charge of the area, and they do a really good job. But because I'm not supposed to confide in what happens if it does happen, I would then have to go to the coordinator upstairs and say to them or for them and say this is what happens. But then
the other alternative would be to email Jackie or Lisa, and then they can get it when they're on day shift. and then we can coordinate for you to come in and have a conversation, maybe like take you off nights or something like that. So we can always organise something. It's just whatever you feel comfortable with at the time. Do you have Lisa's email address?
I think so, but I'll just ask her again.
Yeah, maybe just have it on hand if you are doing one of those shifts later down the track, just so that you feel a bit more comfortable that you're able to contact somebody. Because sometimes it's nicer as well if something was to happen to be able to put it in writing straight away so that you remember it. So it would probably be good, since I has dealt with it previously, just to email her if you feel very uncomfortable, speak to the coordinator, go home, you know, that kind of thing. It would be fine. Yeah.
Thank you, because I just don't want, I just wanted to stop, and I don't have to go through this thing because when I didn't tell her to stop, and she did it even more, and it kind of got worse where the other staff members would treat me like kind of with a bullying manner as well too, so they joined in as well too, and I thought if I said anything even more, then all got even involved, then it would get even worse than what it was, and I just
That's not nice.
no, and everyone is like has to work to earn money to pay bills and to for living. But I just had enough so much of that. I had like stress symptoms where I couldn't go to the toilet properly, and I was really on edge because it happened so suddenly without any warning. So I thought, and then I would I would see her like between the oil tub and the shelving. She would stand and like watch what I was doing, which is really disturbing behavior, because why would someone stand between and watch someone working in secret? It's kind of like being in the way. It's like, and she had jobs to do as well too, so I don't know why she was inside that CSSD. And then she would do this like when there's no one else inside the department, and most of the time it was just between when it was us alone, and she did other stuff members to carry me against me as well. So that's why I'm a bit worried that this
And
would
did you
happen.
tell her like stop doing it? And what was her response?
She just smoked, and then she just went away. But when I told her, don't touch me, I don't like being touched, she said, oh, so you don't like being touched? I said no, and she said she just didn't say anything. She just walked out, and then she kept on coming in to exacerbate the situation, because she knows that now that I don't want her around me, so she kept on coming in further and further and into the department, especially when no one was there in the morning or something. And it's really disturbing that management didn't do anything, because I just felt alone. And
Did they do an investigation at all? No.
No.
And she wasn't even from your department. So what was she doing down there?
I don't know, because it was in a dental teaching school, and she was a DCA, so she was supposed to be like helping and like supervising, helping to the supervisor to coordinate the area. So she would come in every now and then to just like speak to the CSSD to pass messages on. But in my case, she didn't speak to me. She would just somehow quietly creep inside, and then between the two auditors stand and see what I'm doing, or the wall, and then stand behind the wall and see what I'm doing, which is, it's disturbing, because why would someone watch somebody? Like, what's the point of it happened quite a few times? And I don't know, like, why would someone watch somebody like multiple times? It wasn't just once or twice, it was multiple times. And then she would, when we were alone, she would, smack me and things like that. And then one time we had a meeting upstairs because she wanted to go over some things with me for some accreditation or something, and she did the same thing as well too. And then when I told her not to touch me, she went and told the supervisor, and she went and told the other DCAs, and then so the supervisor went and touched me on the elbow purposely, and I don't know why. And then the other staff members looked at me very uncomfortable, as if to say that I made a false accusation, which I didn't. And there were two other CSSD staff members which she did slap me one time, and they didn't say anything at all. And I don't know, like, it's really not normal human behavior, because people don't go around smacking another person unless it's like, and because it's female, doing it to female, I don't understand. Like, I kind of like theorize if it was male or vice versa doing it to each other, because that would mean that, but I just don't understand why a female would do that to another female. It's like really disturbing, because it just, the stress it caused me, I couldn't even go to the toilet properly. I was on edge, and I had like a memory problem as well too, and I had to take so much of weeks off, because if management didn't do anything, so I had to just put up with it, and I just had enough, because it's really horrible, because they know the rules, and they just ignored it, and she's supposed to be in a really strict religion and things like that, and she did that to me, and I just found it really hard to cope with it, because it's just, and I didn't even do anything to her. Like, I don't even talk to her much, and she just, that's most of the things between the two of them, is that they don't talk too much or anything like that, and I feel horrible, because like, I don't know what I did, because I keep a straight face, and I don't talk about, and I'm not that type of person to, I don't know, I just don't know. And it's really like disturbing because I just don't like that type of behavior.
Yeah, cool. And since then, you've mentioned that you've spoken to your doctor, and so you've gotten some help with, because it sounds like it was very traumatic, that experience for you. So you've sought some help and you're sort of a bit better, obviously, in terms of managing it, or are you still trying to get some help for it?
I'm still trying to get some help for it because there's the counselor that Gina recommended didn't do a very good job. Like he just said, oh that you should go your workplaces. He said, but that's not the point. Like management didn't do anything about it. And I had kind of a bit of he said, oh, you have a little bit of depression, and I said, oh, okay, and I said, and then when I was off work during the time between jobs, I kind of recovered a little bit, but when and I did the same thing again, it just came back to me.
Of course, it's a bit of a trigger.
I just have trouble like concentrating sometimes because I don't know what happens in my brain because I can't concentrate when I see her. I just want to like I stand against a wall or something so that she won't. And I don't understand this type of behavior. Like why would someone? This is what I'm trying to wrap my head around. It's like why would they want to do that? Some of the stuff I was did that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't have the answer to that, but I guess from our perspective, what I can give you some assurance is that we will look into it. We are looking into it, and if any breaches of any policies have been found, or of our values or anything like that, then it will be treated in accordance with that process and that disciplinary process, and hopefully that will stop the behaviour. As I said, that's our main goal, is to stop the behaviour. And if it doesn't, then we will continue to investigate it. We're not just going to let it go. Okay, so we're here to support you with that. And I don't know, has Lisa or Jackie given you the employee assistance program details?
They have, but I just because I've had a bad experience, I don't want to have people do them again. And if he is going to, if he won't really help with what's happening because we don't know why she did it, so they can't really tell me to, because she can't really do anything. In terms of me, I can't do anything much because if I tell her not to do it and she does it again, then that's no point in me saying don't do it and she does it again.
Yeah, I mean, each counsellor is very different, and sometimes it's unfortunate when you get a counsellor who I guess you don't gel with very well, because it's very important too. It's a bit like your doctor. If you don't, get along with your doctor or, I guess, appreciate their opinion, or you don't feel that they're listening to you, then you tend to move doctors, right? Because you're not happy. So I can give you the details again. If you'd like to give it another go with a different provider, you don't have to. It's completely, I won't see if you've accessed it. So it's more just so that you've got the details in case you feel that you need to call somebody.
I have it in my lunch bag.
Oh, do you? Okay, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, whether you access it or not, I won't know because it's completely confidential. But just know that it's there, and there may be the next counsellor that you call may be somebody who really can you can confide in and who can help you a little bit with coping with that, because I think this probably has been a bit of a trigger for some past trauma as well, and that's not very good. And like you're saying, if it's affecting your concentration and things, you don't want it to start affecting your work.
No, that's true.
So we can solve it from our end, and I guess from your personal end, there's maybe some work that you need to do there for you. Just to help yourself, as well, because we can only do so much. But yeah, it's there if you need it, and you can access it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay?
And if it does do the same thing, I can just walk out of the room and then, because if she does do it again, then I want to be in the same room with her. I can just walk out and just...
Yeah. Do you often do night shifts, or do you do day shifts generally?
It's a bit of a mix of both.
Yeah, sure.
But because she's on the different shifts, but I do tend to bump into her in the change room, and then I feel comfortable about walking away, so I put the bag in front of me so that she can't get to me.
Yeah, and maybe over time, if she stops doing her behaviour, maybe over time you'll build a bit more trust, and you'll feel less inclined to have to do that. And that's why I'm saying that's probably a component that you need to work on for yourself because it's not a nice feeling. But if it's not happening, then hopefully, if you feel a bit more safe, hopefully that will help to support you.
I just want to 1.5 meters away from me because then she can't reach me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, we're all meant to be because of COVID anyway, so that's fair enough. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Yeah, if, like I said, if you've got any questions in the meantime, you can come in and have a chat. Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Do you need a moment? Do you want to sit in here for a minute and just gather your thoughts?
It
Or
should be okay because I'll just maybe
that's okay. You just head back. You've just started your shift, have you, or are you finished now?
3:30.
Yeah, and you've got night time till night time. Yeah. Lisa's on till I think 10:30 or something. So, she was saying that to me before. So, if you need anything, just pop in and see her for tonight.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
No worries. Don't worry. I think it will be a bit hard. Yeah, it will be a bit hard, but hopefully going forward, day by day.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, it's good. No worries. Thank you so much. Okay, have a good shift.